Hey everyone, Dr. Charles Cole III here, flying solo today as the team is off enjoying some well-deserved vacation time. But don't worry, we've got a packed episode for you. Just, if you will, imagine a world without the U.S. Department of Education. It sounds wild, right? Well, some political heavyweights are pushing for exactly that. Today on the South Star Classroom, we're digging into what it means to abolish the Department of Education, who's behind this movement, and why it matters. So stay with me. This is going to be a conversation that I don't think you want to miss. So, welcome to today's episode of the South Star Classroom. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Cole III, and today we're diving into a hot topic that's been making waves in the political world, the call to abolish the U.S. Department of Education. We'll explore who's advocating for this, why they want it done, and what the implications could be. From there, we'll segue into Project 2025, where they are actually proposing this. But Project 2025 is a conservative initiative that includes dismantling the DOE as part of its agenda. Finally, we will discuss the Heritage Foundation, the organization behind Project 2025, and why their involvement is raising concerns. So let's get started. And my co-hosts have a vacation. I am glad that they are taking some time. So that means I get to experiment, but I am really, really excited to have this conversation. But let's start. Let's start with the recent calls to abolish the Department of Education. This idea has been championed by several Republican presidential candidates for 2024. During a recent debate, Vivek Ramaswamy stated, "Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country." Former Vice President Mike Pence echoed this sentiment, emphasizing the need to shut down the federal department. But this is not a new idea. Historically, figures like Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump have also called for the elimination of the Department of Education, but they face significant challenges. So why do these candidates, why do these Republican leaders, why do these thought organizations, why? Why is that something that they just really, really seem to hang on? Well, here's why. Conservatives argue that the Department of Education represents federal overreach and inefficiency. They believe that education should be managed locally, given more control to states and parents. For instance, Representative Thomas Massie, who proposed legislation to abolish the DOE, stated, "Unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. should not be in charge of our children's intellectual and moral developments. States and local communities are best positioned to shape curricula that meets the needs of their students." Now, what would it actually mean to shut down the Department of Education? It's not as simple as flipping a switch, okay? Such a move will require congressional legislation and strong presidential support. If successful, the responsibilities of the DOE, such as managing student loans and handling civil rights complaints, would likely be transferred to other departments. For example, the Office of Civil Rights could move to the Department of Justice, and student loan management might be handled by the Department of the Treasury. All right. So these things still have to be managed. Okay. As I continue to explain this, we got some comments. I want to make sure we're bringing our people in. What is up, Bill? He said, "Riding with Dr. Cole from Juliet. You are actually not far from me, brother. The fascists think they can win through subtraction." And great John Oliver showing Project 2025 straight up is actually frightening. Thank you. Keep it going, Omar. See, my brother is supposed to be on vacation, but he's supporting me, and I appreciate that. So I just talked about certain parts of the DOE would be broken up and moved here and there. And I also have to drink all my water. So give me a second. I'm never going to finish this in a 24-hour day, but I'm going to keep trying. Here's the thing, but this raises another question. Would abolishing the DOE save money? Proponents argue it will reduce costs and bureaucratic red tape. The Heritage Foundation estimated significant savings such as $4 billion from eliminating the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. However, critics warn that such a move could actually increase bureaucracy and costs, leading to a chaotic transition and potential harm to educational standards. But this didn't come out of nowhere. Again, we talked about old presidents that have talked about it. This has always been a constant and consistent thing, but it is rearing its head again. And why, might you ask? Well, now we're going to talk about Project 2025, an initiative by the Heritage Foundation designed to prepare conservatives for effective governance. This project is crucial for understanding the broader agenda behind the call to dismantle the Department of Education. Project 2025 is organized around 4 pillars. The first pillar is a mandate for leadership. It's a policy book compiled by over 350 leading conservatives outlining the vision for success at the federal level. And this is not just as a whole, but it also breaks it down at each federal agency. Excuse me. And so I just really want people to understand that, okay? This is a think tank. They're not doing this on their own. They're pouring a lot of resources and a lot of money into this. All right. I want to be very, very clear on that. I just want to get some of you all's thoughts. I want to make sure, hold on. I want to get, if Joe doesn't step down soon, this nightmare could become reality. I hear that. And Bill says, stay hydrated. I'm doing my best, Bill. I'm doing my best. It's very, very difficult. It's not easy at all. All right. It really isn't. And then he said, clearing the path for autocracy and fascism, no joke. I agree with you, brother. I agree with you. But that was the first pillar. The second pillar is an online personnel database dubbed a conservative LinkedIn, which will launch soon to help place conservatives in key roles in the next administration. The third pillar is the Presidential Administration Academy, providing training sessions to ensure conservative appointees are effective in their roles. And then finally, the fourth pillar is the playbook, which translates policy ideas into actionable plans for the next administration. This project represents a significant shift in power. Historically, conservatives have struggled with effective wielding of governmental powers, right? Like they want to make sure that government is running efficiently. That is what their call normally says. We'll see, man. I'm sorry, Omar. I'm responding to Omar's comment. He said, why didn't you opt for the large water jug? Let me tell you, I got this because I can measure it. I can stay on top of it, and it's helping me. But I'm getting closer every day. And actually, my trainer said he didn't want me to drink all of it just yet, but I'm working on it. I just want to see if I can do it. So Project 2025 aims to change that by preparing conservatives to use governmental mechanisms proactively just to achieve their goals. So there are people like Spencer Shetrin. I think I said your name wrong. Sorry for that, good brother. I don't agree with you, but I also want to make sure that you respect your name. He's the associate director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, and he emphasizes that this effort is about more than just reducing government size. It's about ensuring that conservative policies are implemented efficiently and effectively. But who is this Heritage Foundation that we keep hearing about? And you know what? I'm going to drink this water. While we taking a little break, I want to send a prayer to all of my friends that are in the Texas area that are dealing with this hurricane. God bless. What made me think of that is the rain is killing my office right now. I'm looking at it. It's coming down. We have flash flood warnings, and I'm all the way in the south suburbs of Chicago. So I can only imagine what other people are going through. So may God keep you and protect you. All right. I'm going to start in on the Heritage Foundation because I know people have been hearing it, but I want to make sure you know exactly who that is and basically understand what a think tank does. So let's look at the Heritage Foundation. All right. It's the organization that's behind Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank with a mission to promote policies based on free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and strong national defense. The Heritage Foundation focuses on specific solutions that mobilize conservatives and trains future leaders. Their influence in Washington, D.C. is significant. Consistently, is significantly, okay? It is always ranked like as one of the top think tanks for conservatives. It is a top one that is even outside the United States, people recognize it. Heritage's experts develop policy solutions on issues like education, spending, inflation, border security, and more. These solutions are then taken directly to decision makers in government to turn their ideas into actions. But why is their role in Project 2025 significant and potentially dangerous? The Heritage Foundation strategies, such as dismantling the Department of Education, could have far-reaching impacts on public education and civil rights. There's concern that their approach might lead to an increased centralization of power among a few conservative leaders and organizations, which would potentially undermine democratic processes and public accountability. So I took a lot of this directly from their website as I was compiling this research and this data. Now, listen, I want to be very clear about something. I am a proponent of parent choice. I am somebody that believes that this education system has failed and is continuing to fail over and over and over again. And I think that parents should be able to have other types of choices, right? I was denied choice when I was younger. You know, there were some schools that were in my zone. We didn't live in the best neighborhood, but I was bound to those schools. But I want to be very clear as to why I do not support any of this. Any of Project 2025, any of what the Heritage Foundation is doing. I truly believe that they are trying to remove any type of safeguard, that would keep some type of watchdog over what type of education young people are getting or what we are mandating as education in this country. We talked about this a few weeks ago here in the South Star Classroom when we discussed Oklahoma and places in Texas and other places are trying to get religious schools in the public sector. They're trying to start religious or Christian charter schools and things like that. Now, you all know I have no beef with charter schools. I like the options. I have none at all. But I do believe in a separation of church and state. I have no problem with Christian schools, Muslim schools, Catholic schools. I have no problems with any of that. But I think that they have their place and they belong in the private sector. I think those should be private schools. I don't think that we should be utilizing public dollars in order to break a constitutional mandate of separation between church and state. All right. There is a reason that these things are written down. There's a reason that wars were fought. There is a reason that people are wanting to stay away from that, because for the people that came here, however illegally or whatever the case was, I'm talking about the American Revolution. I'm talking about when they left and didn't want to pay those taxes. The new United States, as it was forming, was deeply, deeply, deeply fearful of another monarchy. It was deeply fearful of having a king and queen. It was deeply fearful of having the Vatican be the leader, or the Catholic Church be the leader of the country. Are you following me? There's a reason why those things happened and came into fruition. Now, back to my water. He says, you know, too much water. I appreciate you, Bill. Bill Conrad says the Heritage Foundation is responsible for the Supreme Court abomination we have now and the attack on women's rights. He also said they're leading America back to the horrors of Jim Crow. It would be easier to I don't know, reify a white nationalist Christian nation. Yes, I agree. And I imagine you discuss Schedule F as part of Project 2025. So what I tried to do, Omar, is when I was putting this together, when I was scripting this out and kind of building it, I wanted to keep it tight. I wanted people to be able to understand what the controversy is. So let's start with the headline of abolishing the United States Department of Education. I then wanted people to understand what that is a part of. That is part of a larger plan, which is Project 2025. that a lot of people are fearful of, that a lot of people are talking about, that a lot of people are not feeling. I wanted to make sure that we got there, and then I wanted to just keep it simple and explain to people what the Heritage Foundation is. So, and ask your questions, bring in your comments. I'm gonna take another sip of water because I know there's a slight delay from when I say something and when you hear it, and then again from when you hear it and you write something. So I want to make sure that I can interact with the crowd as my team is not here. See, this is where I would normally throw it to the beard of wisdom or the beard of knowledge. I still don't know. I always get it, thrown off. This is the part where Omar would go in on the politics of this, as he is somewhat doing in the comments. And Omar, you are on vacation. If you do just feel so inclined and you just can't help it, it's your show, brother. You can definitely jump in. And this is where Jubilee would, talk about the future of our country and how we all just need to be better people. She's a very sweet person. She has a lot more faith in people than I do. So there's that. So let's just recap what we talked about so far. We discussed the call to abolish the Department of Education, the goals of Project 2025, and the role of the Heritage Foundation. So while the idea of dismantling the DOE might appeal to some, it's crucial to consider the broader implications for our education system and civil rights. The involvement of the Heritage Foundation adds just another layer of complexity and just potential risk. Okay, I would encourage all of you that are listening to stay informed and stay engaged with these issues, and not on a superficial level. All right. I want you should dive into these things. You should be able to think for yourself. You should not be waiting for somebody to summarize it and tell you, right? This is just an introduction into this because there's a deep rabbit hole. There's so many different parts of Project 2025 that I can pull out and kind of go deeper in. So I want to make sure that you all are leaving here more informed, but you have to stay on top of this. So that's one. I think that your voices matter. And it's important to participate in the discussions around the future of the education system. So if you have thoughts or questions about today, reach out. You can reach out to us on social media. You can email me directly. But I also, as you're lending your voice to these type of topics, again, so many entities and people bank on us as a people being ignorant to what it is that we're talking about. They think that we only lead with emotion. And I think that the emotion is really, really important. And when you combine emotion with facts and knowledge and wisdom and foresight, I think that it could be extremely impactful. The last part of that is that you cannot leave out action, because there are people working. Again, people play the long game. Some people think that they just started talking about getting rid of the Department of Education because they don't study politics all the time, and that's fine. That's not your profession. But again, as far back as Ronald Reagan, he wanted to get rid of that, right? A lot of conservatives think that the Department of Education, it's a time suck and it's a money suck, and that it makes government less efficient. Conservative values do not believe in broad, bloated government. Now, again, whether you are more liberal leaning, more conservative leaning, I don't care. That's your business. Again, I am somebody that I think I fall on the left, but I think what I want to think. I think that, again, I get a lot of crap because I believe in choice. But I believe that it has parameters. I believe that there are barriers around it. I believe that there are people that may wish me harm. And sometimes those people may wrap in things that I may agree with. So there might be one thing I might agree with, but that don't mean I agree with all of that stuff. And so I just want to be very clear, and I want you to be very clear as a consumer. I want to make sure that as you are coming into these sessions at the South Star Classroom, that you're leaving more informed. It's fun to debate. It's fun to have our back and forth. But what we always try to do is give you enough facts so you can make these decisions. I keep telling you we are on our own. And what I mean by we are on our own is I do think that their public education system is deeply flawed. Some of the critiques that are made about the Department of Education, I absolutely understand. I think that we have gotten so far away from proficiency. I think that we care more about pageantry over proficiency. I think that we have gotten to a place where we want to look smart as opposed to being smart. And I think social media has played a large role in that. I think that the perception of being a good person, the perception of greatness, the perception of actually interacting with people has replaced actual greatness, actual rigor, actual relationships. And what I'm telling you is that there are a lot of smart people out there in this world on either side of these issues. I think there are people in the Heritage Foundation that are very smart. And I think that a lot of their values are directly counter to a lot of my values. And I think that they are banking on the people being lazy. I think they are banking on the people being ill-informed. I think they are banking on the people caring more about social media and reality TV and who's dating who and sensationalism. I think they bank on that. So, you know, if we bring in somebody like a Huey P. Newton, somebody that I study, he talks about contradictions and having to confront contradictions. And I appreciate that he does that because he had his own contradictions that he had to live with and demons that he had to fight, but he was a great leader. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the smart. You don't have to be these false and fake images that people are presenting to you on social media or online. This is a call to real people. This is a call for you to get involved in your local school board elections and know what is happening. This is a call for you to know what the hell you are talking about. Because if you don't, either side of this, every side of this, any political structure, any political group, any organization, they will use your emotions to wag you by the tail. You do not want to be wagged by the tail. All right. So hopefully you feel better equipped. I'm going to go to some of these comments. Let's see. We are looking at the American Mein Kampf. If you should probably go out and if you don't know what Mein Kampf is, you should probably, first off, this is indicative of the issue, not you, Bill. I bet you there's a lot of people watching this that have never heard of Mein Kampf, and I am not shaming you. What I'm saying is that understanding a text like that and where it came from and why that text was so dangerous, or what it said in it, you should go Google it on your own. Get in the habit of that. Omar said it's a large scale shift to oligarchy. I'm not down with the destruction of democracy, which is the Project 2025 goal, and certainly where conservatives and Trump want to go. Keep your representatives on speed dial. Make your voice heard. It matters. Thank you, Bill Conrad. Nicole, welcome. Nicole said, I thought Cheeto tried to separate himself from Project 2025 in favor of Agenda 47. I will come back to that in 1 second. And Bill Conrad said, power does not relinquish itself, not without a fight. So be ready to fight. And I agree with that, Bill. I'm gonna go back. I'm coming back to you right now, Nicole. But I will segue off of what you said, Bill. Power does not concede itself. Be ready to fight. And when you punch, when you hit, do not be surprised when your opponent's punch and hit back. I have been in these fights and struggles for a long time. I was an activist for a long time. I don't know if I consider myself an activist these days, but I remember working with a lot of people and they believed in what they were fighting for the most part. But I was so surprised by how many times they would be so defeated when the enemy that they provoked and pushed hits and punches back. This is a boxing match. This is a democracy. And there are people that don't agree with you. And there are different ways to gather power. And there's different tactics and there's different strategy. Just because you are loud, just because you might be aggressive, just because you care about something, just because you think that it is what should be happening morally, does not mean that your opponent thinks that. So you have to be prepared. So Bill, I appreciate what you said. Now back to this. Yes, it is a strategic move, Nicole. The Trump administration, well, not administration, but his team, they're trying to move him off of Project 25. They're trying to disassociate him to some degree. But here's the thing, and here's the rub, right? Part of the Heritage Foundation's proposal in Project 2025 is to kind of build a Rolodex of conservatives that believe in Project 2025, make them look very good. So if Trump does win, and there's a very good chance he does, especially based off that last debate. And if you want, we can have a discussion about what I think should happen in my party, the Democratic Party, based off just where Joe Biden's cognition is today. But let me not lose the point to what you said, Nicole. They're trying to remove him from that, but there will be people that will be installed if he does win that believe in 2025. And there may be some subtle differences from Agenda 47 and Project 2025. I don't know all of Agenda 47. I have to go look. I didn't prepare for that today. And people watching and listening, I hope I'm setting a good example. When you don't have the full details on something, you ain't got to try to act like you do. It's okay to say, I don't know. I'm going to go do some more research. But I do know strategically what they're trying to do is they're trying to separate him from that, because Trump is really making a push for some difference makers. What do I mean by difference makers? Trump is making a push for difference makers. That's like swing states, and that's votes like the black vote. It's fringe votes. He's going after voting blocks and bases that he feels can be vulnerable. And his goal isn't to get all black people. He knows he can't do that. But if he can pull away, 10% of that vote, that makes a huge difference, especially in certain swing states, okay? That would be huge in Michigan, right? Michigan is purple. That would be huge in Nevada, right? Nevada is often purple. You get what I'm saying? So he's trying to appeal to different type of groups. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Let me give you all, as I get some more water, I want to hear, let me know if you want me to talk about my thoughts on the debate and what we should be doing on our side, or just my reactions from it. We have a big crowd in here tonight. I appreciate you. If you're here for the first time, introduce yourselves. I want you to be part of this conversation. I don't want to just be talking to myself. Well, I'm a little weird in the head, so I talk to myself all the time. But if you're here, talk to me and I will talk back. All right. Let me put a P in the in the comments to say present, since class is in session. So somebody asked me, what do I think about the elections, and what do I think about the debates, and what do I think about Joe Biden? Here's the thing. I watched that debate like everybody else watched that debate. I had my reactions watching that debate. And what I saw was a man in Joe Biden who, fix my microphone, who time has caught up with. It wasn't a damn code. It wasn't just a code. There is some decline there. Now, do I think he's a better human being? Does him being a better human being kind of matter in the game of politics? It's about who you can vote, who can win. I think that Trump's snappiness, even though a lot of those were lies, many of the people that were watching, that were on the fence, don't know that those are lies. They're not fact checking in the moment. Here's where my issue is with my own party that I have spent time in, that I have worked in, that I have given money to, all of this stuff that has not always served me. Now, they ain't been, them damn Republicans ain't no better. I ain't going over there. I don't ever see that happening. But here's where I feel like my party made a mistake. Before the fight, I'm going to call the debate the fight. All right. Before fight night, they did what boxers do, both sides, right? The team say, we're going to dust the other side. We're going to show you just how much better Donald Trump is over Joe Biden. We're going to show you just how much better Joe Biden is over Donald Trump. They said he went through these cognition tests. He's ready. He's better. He's going to win. This is a big stage. He's fine. And then we all watched it. And then directly after, you attack your own party when people in the party say, you know what, we need to move on because you just told me how important this election was. You told me that democracy is on the line in this election. You told me Project 2025 is on the line in this election. You told me that the state of just the democratic process moving forward is on the line in this debate. And as soon as my side didn't win, you are now spinning it and telling me that the debate doesn't matter, that the debate came too early, that we shouldn't be jumping ship. I have a degree in political science. I've been a part of politics for a long time until I left it and started doing more education-focused stuff. You can't say things to me like, well, Joe won his primary. Joe didn't have a real primary because he's the incumbent. But we do have a convention coming up. Conversations could be happening. People's confidence is shaken in that man. Now, again, let me also just say this. If you really like Joe Biden, if you can see Joe Biden as your grandfather, your great-grandfather, if you loved him and you saw what I saw, is it love to keep putting him up on stages? Is it love to try to convince me that this man can still be the leader of the free world? Now, listen, I know that no single person actually runs the world, right? I know that no single person, like there's a full team. There are people behind him. There are, you know, there are folks that are, there's a job there, right? If something were to happen, somebody else is going to grab the reins. And I actually think somebody else already has grabbed the reins. Here's my question. Since the Democrats, my party that I'm a part of, loves to pander to us during this time, and since they like to talk to me about black women as if I'm not black, why has Kamala Harris not been better positioned by that party? That party is doing Kamala Harris a disservice. Because let me tell you, if throughout these 4 years, they allowed the Kamala Harris that was on the presidential path before she lost in the primaries and all that stuff 4 years ago, if they would have propped her up appropriately, given her space to talk and be there with the people, not just at Essence Fest, not just at the BET Awards, not just to do parties and ski-wee on the damn White House lawn, but like really had her leading as she is capable of, which is what we were told during this election, do you think people would be as nervous right now? That is this party's own fault. The other misstep, number one miscalculation is not appropriately letting Miss Kamala Harris, our VP, off the leash to be brilliant, the brilliant person that we know she could be. That's one. I'm going to pause real quick because I know we got some more comments. Bill Conrad said it's all a spin. We now have Blue MAGA. Amen, Charles. Thank you, brother. Joe didn't even do a Super Bowl interview. This is not a one-off. There's a pattern. Kamala is token to the DNC. Sadly, she's done a disservice to herself. She's had one of the most unpopular and disaffected staff in national history. No one likes her or wants to work with her straight up. That's what it looks like. So that's problem one. All right, let me write that down for myself so I can keep track. I take notes while I'm on the show. So one is there's the Kamala issue. And I feel like I was talking to a friend about this earlier, and he said this. I feel like there's a battle that's happening in that White House. I agree with my friend when he said this. I feel like Jill Biden has a staff, and Kamala has a staff. That's what my friend said. Well, we know that to be true, but that they're kind of beefing. I feel like Jill got some power over there. And I don't know how well these people get along, because we all are watching the game as it unravels. All right. Issue 2 is Jill Biden. Jill Biden is with this man every day. She had to see this level of decline. There had not just Jill Biden. It was, I would say, the president and the first lady's staff. They had to see what was going to come. They train you hard when a debate is coming up. Regardless of how much they want to make you feel now that debates don't matter, the debate prep is rigorous. It is tough. It is a grind. I'm sure somebody saw something early on. And I'm sure something has happened in this party. President Biden was supposed to be a bridge president. They pulled him out after the Hillary Clinton debacle. After Donald Trump won, they said, who can win? Joe can win. And Joe won. Congrats, Joe. But Joe was supposed to be a bridge candidate. He was supposed to be a bridge president, meaning I'm winning here. I'm going to get us out of this mess. I'm going to be the fixer. And then I'm going to hand this off to the future of the party. That's what was supposed to happen. For whatever reason, something spooked them in the last 4 years. And you can't tell me that it was just Joe Biden being ambitious. He got to sit in the seat. If he just came in and did these 4 years with COVID in the back lurch and what he's done with the economy, again, now everyday people that I talk to, they feel the stress and strain, but I'm in the Chicago area. There's a lot of things happening here. But what the numbers say, what the data says, is that the economy is doing a lot better under Joe Biden than it was under Donald Trump. He was supposed to ride off in the sunset. Joe Biden was supposed to be Jordan with the hand up over Utah, with his final shot being that glorious, tap Byron Russell, you know what I'm saying? Go for it. Bam. I win my second, three-peat. But somewhere along the line, Joe Biden dusted off his Wizards jersey. And while he's still, I think, a valuable player, I think he has a lot of wisdom. I think there's a lot of institutional knowledge. There's a lot of things I don't agree with Joe Biden on. There's a lot of things that Joe Biden's done in the past that I don't like, but I still like him more, and I like that Trump guy. But as Tupac said, he is looking like Larry Holmes, flabby and sick. And somebody in that party, somebody on that staff, somebody with a bunch of degrees, somebody with a lot of power, somebody with a crazy black book didn't think to call this? What level of incompetence is this? People are not questioning this because they want to like Republicans or like Donald Trump. It's because people are tired of you playing in their faces. Every single election I have been through in my young life of 40 years, you can't keep winning votes by scaring people into this being the most dangerous election of all time. You need a new line. Do you understand? We say this every year, and I don't like every election cycle. And words matter, man. It's an important election. I think they're all important. But if you keep telling me that every election is the most important election in history, at some point I'm going to stop believing you. You know how excited I was around Barack Obama? I was one of those young college age kids that was like, I think I was in grad school. Like, I was super juiced, man. I saw this dude that I thought was brilliant, man, and I was energized. And they were using social media and the internet. They were speaking how I spoke. And that was the most important election of all time. And then the election after that was the most important election of all time. Well, it was more important than the election that led up to and directly after the Civil War. World War I. This is a more dangerous time than Hitler. I hate using this term because I think people abuse it, but this is quintessential gaslighting. And let me tell you why I know it is. Because if it truly was the most important election, if democracy is truly on the line, which I think on some level, I think if Trump gets back in, he's going after enemies. I think, listen, man, we talking about a dude who inserted a Supreme Court that just gave President Trump and every president heretofore immunity. That is power, ladies and gentlemen. It is power. This is not about who you want to have a beer with or who you like. And Democrats, this is not about trying not to lose face. I don't know how whoever is losing this internal battle to swap him out. But if he loses, don't blame black men. Don't say enough black women didn't come out. Don't lie to everybody as if this was not one of the biggest fumble jobs that we have ever seen politically. Donald Trump his ego will always step up, but if Donald Trump was smart, he would start saying less and less. He would hit the notes and get out the way. He doesn't have to do much. You understand? Let's see what y'all said, man. Omar, why do you think the Democratic Party hasn't propped her into the space? That was the original goal. Yeah, I agree. He says, sadly, with Kamala, is that we've known her since her UC Hastings days. She thinks she's the smartest person in the room and treats people poorly. I've met her a few times. I mean, she was very nice to me. I'm from the Bay. I worked in the Democratic Party in the Bay. I was the vice chair of the California Young Black Dems. I've been in those areas. But yeah, and I think that they're getting ready to swap in Gavin Newsom. I think that they are going to try to latch on to Gavin Newsom, regardless of how you feel about him, regardless of how you feel about his politics. He's a charming man. He's a charmer. I'm just telling you, yo. He's charming. They need somebody charismatic. The way that Gavin Newsom came out on MSNBC directly after that debate and hit every note of supporting our president, not jumping ship, but looking very presidential as he said it. Come on, man. Listen, we live in a political climate where they can't even really make political shows because real life is more interesting. It is. So if all this stuff, this Project 2025 stuff is on the line, losing the Department of Education is on the line, the democracy is on the line, wouldn't you want to run your best squad? Wouldn't you? If you love Papa Joe, don't you want him to spend his last days comfortable? And here's the other thing that I think we're losing people on, is they said, well, Donald Trump's only 3 years younger. Don't be dense. Of course he's only 3 years younger. People are not just looking at the age by itself. They're not just looking at age in a vacuum. They're looking at the shift in the last 4 years on top of age. They're looking at the debate combined with the age. I know that Republicans and Democrats don't often think highly of their constituencies. I don't think either side does. I truly, truly don't. I mean, I don't. I think there's a reason why anytime they want to get to black people, they talk to rappers. I think there's a reason why they show up at the BET Awards. I think there's a reason that they only talk to your black ass as an election is coming. Now, again, I'm smart enough to try to vote my interests. You understand? You dig? So while I know that they are pandering to me, I still hate what that other side is. We don't have to be BFFs. This is not about who you like. This is about winning. This is about power. And the third, which I've alluded to, but I'm going to go into a little bit more, is democratic hubris. I'm going to say something that I don't think people are going to like right now. Remember that time that Barack Obama, that smart, snappy, very sharp young man, and his presidency was winding down, and the Democratic Party, it was a foregone conclusion that our next heir apparent would be one Hillary Clinton. Remember that? And remember that during those primaries, as we led up, that the Democratic machine, do you remember what they did to those fringe progressive Democrats or people that said they were Democrats to run? Jury might have still been out if Bernie was actually a Democrat or not, but you can debate that amongst yourselves. You remember what they did to him? Now, listen, I was not a Bernie person. Like, I was not a Bernie Kemp person. I like Joe Biden. But whatever. I mean, Joe Biden wasn't there at the time, but I'm just saying, right? But I wasn't a Bernieite like that. But remember, during that time, our hubris was just a lot, right? Like, it was just kind of, ugh. And remember, Barack Obama went to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You remember that? And remember, he said, with all due respect, you're getting a little long in the tooth, and I'm about to leave office. While I still have some time, while I still have some power, can I please replace you? Remember that? And she said, no. Feminism. She said, no, I get to do this for life. And she said, no, because Hillary, the presumed notion was that Hillary Clinton would win. That Donald Trump did not have a snowball's chance in hell. Do you remember this miscalculation? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Elections have consequences. And sadly, she died in office. Sadly, Donald Trump won. And Donald Trump wielded every bit of power he has. So regardless of what you think about him, regardless of what you think about that Republican machine, regardless of whatever jokes we can make about him being a Cheeto and all this and everything and him looking crazy and the orange man and all that stuff, his party didn't care. You know why? Because he delivered on judges. And you know what that culminated to? Roe versus Wade just got challenged. The Supreme Court just not pardoned, but preemptively pardoned him, giving him immunity. And even if he says, I'm not on this Project 2025 joint, I'm on something else, if he wins, he will install people that are. We care more about looking good, about looking righteous, about looking smart, about sounding educated, about sounding equitable, than actually being it, than actually doing what is necessary to gain and retain the level of power to start to build the type of United States that you want. We care more in this country that you say unhoused people as opposed to homeless people. We care more about how you say it than actually putting homeless people in houses. Somebody tried to correct me when I said homeless. I said, ma'am, do you know that I was actually homeless And do you believe me when I tell you that as I went between those 4 different shelters, I don't give a damn if you called it unhoused or homeless, just put me in a house. That is the insanity that we are talking about today. So let me see. 1 was the Kamala issue. 2 was Joe Biden's staff. 3 was what I call Democratic hubris. Let's see. The 4th issue that I'm having. This is crazy, man. I'm sorry. Let me get to some of these real quick. Omar, Bill said Joe can barely make it to next week, let alone 4 years, beyond imagination. It's insane. Yeah, man, it is insane. Here's where I will land this plane. The other thing that I think that we have a true issue with, that we're just plagued by, I think it's our fault. Let me explain. I think it's our fault because we are not as well educated around what's happening here, and not just what's happening politically. I'm going to say this as somebody who was born in Maywood, a West Chicago suburb, lived in Paducah, Kentucky, before moving to Oakland, California. That is 3 very different places. I think that we have been ignorant in coastal places as to what middle America faces, as to what they think. I think we have been guilty of tribalism. I have heard so many disparaging remarks about people that live in Kentucky, people that live outside of Chicago in Illinois, greater farmland area, Wyoming, Arkansas. There are Black people that live there as well. They've been alienated. They have. I think that we have, I think the wealth disparity in this country has really shifted a lot of things. I am an academic. I do have a doctorate degree. I did go to college and write a paper. And what I saw is I saw an emergence of a new Black. I saw an emergence of a new brown. I saw the name go from Black to people of color to BIPOC. I saw conversations about people to the point be spoken at which the people you're talking about would not even be able to partake in said conversation. I have seen us be so disrespectful to the people that we say that we love. I have seen social media make it seem as if there is an ever-present war between Black men and Black women, which in my life is not the case at all. I have seen conversations devolve around Blackness, and I'm a Black African American. I am from here. I have seen people from the diaspora come in and say terrible things about Black Americans, and I've seen Black Americans say terrible things about the diaspora. I have seen brown people from different parts of this country, whether they were born here or came in, have beefs inside of their own people. And then we have the nerve, and I'm talking to my side. I don't know what I can't speak to the Republican side the way I can speak to the Democratic side. But we got the nerve to be like, them people are terrible people because they seen all this stuff Donald Trump does. Why would they vote for him? Because it's about power. We have people that make really good money, that will continue to make really good money, that will be okay, that are talking like there's a lot on the line, but not acting as if there's a lot on the line. But we have people in this country that make less than $50,000 a year, less than $30,000 a year, People that are telling you milk is 5 times more expensive now than it's ever been. People that are telling you that I have to have 3 generations of my family live with me so we won't be homeless. You don't think it's important to do what needs to be done to win this election? You don't think it's dumb to constantly and consistently eat your own Democrats? Again, I'm sure Republicans do that on their end. I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to my party. You don't think that we can just continue to operate without strategy? You don't think it's okay that we just continuously like talk about how important this debate was and then we lose the debate and then act like it's not important? You think that we are stupid? That we don't know that there's some internal conversation and turmoil that's happening around what we should be doing? I'm going to say this and get out of here. If you really care about education, if you really care about your kids' future, if you really care that this does not turn into the fascist government that you are afraid and think that it will become, if you are really, really, really annoyed and scared and frightened and frustrated or whatever adjective you want to use of what can potentially happen with another Donald Trump presidency, I suggest that you be vocal. I suggest you speak from the heart. I suggest that you throw away Democratic or Republican talking points and you speak from experience and you tell and demand what you want. That's what I think. And I think regardless of who gets elected, I think regardless of what team comes out on top, I think you need to remember that we are on our own. And if anybody comes and helps you, it is a blessing. But if they don't, what will you do? We have talked on this show about curriculum in Texas that said that they were happy slaves. I'm sorry, enslaved people. Again, whether you call them slaves or enslaved people, doesn't change the fact that we were in bondage. We got to worry less about what we look like, what we sound like, and improve who we are and who we want to be, and stop throwing each other away because of silly mistakes, of immaturity, and maybe be a little bit more like those Republican people that vote pretty frequently. Go win. Go win. And continuing to lie to me about the mental capacity of Joe Biden is not the way you do that. This has been another episode of the South Star Classroom. My team will be back in full force next week. Hopefully these last 2 weeks were not terrible for you. Last week there were some camera issues, but the topic was really short. I didn't have that much time anyway. But you can catch us same bat time, same bat station. If you have not liked and subscribed, please do on YouTube. It would mean so much to us. And share this. Let's engage in conversation and take care of yourselves, take care of each other, especially as we see what's happening in this world. God bless y'all. Good night. Peace.